From a biological point of view, on the surface, the reason why the human body is getting older is because some of the cells in the body are no longer renewed. This is reminiscent of a well-known philosophical question. There is a boat. We replace it with a part every day, until all the parts of this boat are replaced with new ones. So is this boat still the same boat? The human body is almost the same. Cells in many parts of our body are constantly being updated and replaced. So some people propose. On the surface, it seems that the person is still this person, but the cells throughout the body have been replaced many times. That's equal to every once in a while. Everyone is another new person. Is that really the case? If cells can keep updating like this, will our bodies not age? What makes cells slowly stop renewing? What are the mechanisms that let our bodies slowly age? Welcome to Audible Wisdom. We're talking about why the human body ages. Will we become different people? Cells in many parts of our body keep updating. Will it make us completely different people? There are 40 trillion to 60 trillion cells in the human body. They have a constant metabolism. In the process, there's constant cell death. New cells are constantly emerging. Cell metabolism have a cycle, but not all cells update according to the same cycle. The taste cells on the taste buds are renewed every 10 days to 2 weeks. The renewal cycle of gastric epithelial cells is 6 days. The intestinal mucosal cell renewal cycle takes only 3 days. There are also cells with long replacement cycles, such as cardiomyocytes. Swedish scientists confirmed in 2009 that cardiomyocytes are renewed at a rate of 1% per year. The older you get, fewer updates. Some brain cells never renew, such as central nervous cells. They have been set since the day of birth and cannot increase nor update after reaching a certain age. There's also a decrease in the number of central nervous cells, invariance of central nervous cells, and this is what we remember, the reason for its longevity. This is just a part of the cell's metabolic cycle. The human body has too many types of cells. There's a lot of them. Even cells in different parts of the same organ have different lifespans, and individuals have different health conditions. The rate of cell renewal will also be different. So every once in a while, it is impossible to replace all the cells in the body at once. A person cannot be completely renewed into a new person. Although most cells in the body divide, it's constantly renewing itself. But the rate of cell division begins in adulthood. It gets slower and slower. Then after a certain number of times the cells stop renewing. By this time, the corresponding body tissues of the cells will age. That means aging. So why does the body have this limit on the number of cell divisions? Which part of the gene determines the renewal mechanism of cells? What determines the cell renewal mechanism? Physiologist Elizabeth Blackburn proposed. The telomeres in our DNA determines the number of times a human cell divides. She was awarded the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 2009 because of this. We know there are 23 pairs of chromosomes in each cell of the human body. Chromosomes contain a person's complete genetic information. It's made up of DNA and proteins. DNA codes for genetic information, the so-called genes. It's the stretch by stretch of DNA on a chromosome. What about telomeres? It's the DNA sequence at the ends of chromosomes. They are not involved in cell division, which passes down genetic information. So what does it do? We can think of the chromosome as a shoelace, and telomeres are like the plastic ends of shoelaces. Wrap the shoelaces. That is to say, telomeres protects DNA coding sequences from being destroyed during cell division. Every time a cell divides, it replicates chromosomes. Every time a chromosome is copied, the DNA inside telomeres also replicates. But the telomere DNA, each time it is copied, it will be a little shorter than the original. This means that every time a cell divides, telomeres need to get shorter, till the telomeres are so short that its protective effect on chromosomes is gone. What is the result of this? This causes the chromosomes to stop replicating normally, which means cells can't divide. This happens when the tissue in which the cells are located ages. So, the root cause of aging is shortened telomeres. Why is lifespan different? Because everyone's telomeres shorten at a different rate. So people age differently. That is to say, how long does a person live depends on the length of his telomeres. Now further research has found Telomere length affects the aging of our skin. How many white hairs? Cardiopulmonary function? Bones? It also affects our cognitive abilities. There is evidence that even Alzheimer's is linked to shortened telomeres. After knowing this, we can further draw a conclusion. Why do some elderly people live longer? Because their telomeres are long. From the moment a person is born, your telomeres start getting shorter. By the age of 75, the average telomere length in humans is the shortest. Also, by age 75, there is a high mortality rate. Physiologist Blackburn once encountered a particular case. There was a 13-year-old girl, white hair, faltering. Every physiological function had degraded. After testing, it turned out to be due to a particular genetic mutation, causing her telomere disorder. So even though she was at a very young age, but her body is already an old lady. Is there anything humans can do about it? Is there any way we can affect the length of the telomeres? Elizabeth Blackburn discovered good news through continuous research. She said that telomeres can actually grow again. In 1984, Blackburn accidentally discovered during an experiment. Some telomeres not only did not shorten, instead, it got a little longer. Blackburn tried to find the mechanism of telomere growth. Then one of her students isolated an enzyme. They named it telomerase. We already have telomeres in our bodies. DNA can be copied by telomerase, thus slowing it down. They can even grow. That is to say, as long as the body has sufficient telomerase, cells can keep dividing. But here's the thing. The activity of telomerase in the human body is often insufficient. Then if you take a drug that strengthens telomerase, can't you reverse aging? There's actually a drug on the market, but Blackburn warns, we shouldn't take this medicine if there is too much telomerase. Some cells that should not continue to divide in the first place. It will also continue to accelerate the split. What happens if a cell divides too quickly? We're familiar with this too. It's a tumor. That is, cancer. If telomerase is insufficient, you get older. If you have too much telomerase, you get cancer. So now someone is researching how to artificially strengthen telomerase, reduce the risk of cancer. Of course, this is work for scientists, but for us ordinary people, the main concern is, what are the factors in life that affect the body's own telomerase? Why do some people have longer telomeres? When Elizabeth Blackburn conducted research on different populations, she noticed a phenomenon. Mothers who care for sick children at home for a long time all seem to age very quickly. It seems that the stress of life is causing aging. So she measured the telomere lengths of these mothers, and she discovered three things. First of all, in general, mothers spend a lot of time caring for sick children, have shorter telomeres. Secondly, mothers who feel stressed when they take care of their children had the shortest telomeres. And thirdly, mothers who felt the most stressful had the worst telomerase activity. It seems that negative emotions in life had a profound impact on an individual's telomeres. So what do we do about that? How should we cope with the impact of emotions on telomeres? On the issue of anti-aging, how can we cope with the destruction of telomeres by emotions? It already seems important, so we're going to talk about next. The key here is not the amount of pressure. It's about the emotional impact of stress. If it is mostly negative emotions, that's more troublesome. Then it can affect a person's health and telomeres. Elizabeth Blackburn, in her book, The Telomere Effect, mainly mentioned three emotions. The first emotion is hostility. For example, a middle-aged man. He's been having a hard time at work lately. He worked for a day and goes home emotionally upset. He sees that the house is a little messy. For example, there are a lot of useless advertisements on the table. He felt that his wife had not tidied up the house properly. She was too lazy, so he blamed his wife. That's hostility. According to statistics, men tend to be more hostile than women. Hostility can make your relationship with those around you worse. He will also fall into a more indulgent lifestyle, like eating, smoking, drinking. His health will deteriorate. His telomeres will also shorten. The second emotion is pessimism. Women tend to be more pessimistic than men. Pessimists have shorter telomeres. Why are people pessimistic? Pessimism is a form of psychological protection. Protect ourselves from disappointment. If we expect good results in advance and the result is not good, we will be very disappointed. As a result, some people rather choose pessimism so as not to be disappointed. The third emotion is paranoia. Man is the only species in the animal kingdom that doesn't live in the present moment. The other animals just think about what they are doing now. Only people think of something else while doing something. There is a word in English called rumination. But rumination is no ordinary contemplation. It's dwelling on a negative thing, constantly thinking about a negative thing. It diminishes one's telomeres. One person has on average 65,000 thoughts a day. So ideas are worthless. 90% of ideas are meaningless. They are not worth following up. Elizabeth Blackburn is a big fan of mindfulness meditation. An important principle of meditation is focusing on how your body feels. Then other ideas naturally disappear. There are studies that find those who can't concentrate and think forever, even if there is no pressure. Their telomeres are also, on average, 200 bases shorter than others. Put these things together. The state of mind that is most conducive to good health and longevity. It's called consciousness. It probably means being serious, diligent, and organized, not impulsive and full of responsibility. Aside from emotions, our living environment also has profound implications for our telomeres. The influence of the environment on telomeres. Based on a common understanding, you will feel, if there is a green space near where you live, you can often experience the wonders of nature. This is the best environment, but that's not really the point. The natural environment is important, but even more important is our personal environment. The Germans did a study. Researchers found a group of people who lived in cities and a group of people who live in the countryside. Researchers brought them into the lab and did a stress experiment. The method of this stress experiment is to let them do the math. While doing questions, the experimenter urges them to do it quickly through the earphone, making people very nervous. At the same time, experimenters use functional nuclear magnetic resonance scanning the subject's brain and watch their brain respond to stress. The result is, city dwellers are more likely to perceive stress as a threat. In their brains, there was significantly more activity in the part of the amygdala which is responsible for fear. In comparison, village dwellers are a little more relaxed about stress. City life is fast. People who live in cities for a long time learn to be vigilant at all times. This sense of alertness is a survival instinct but not depression. Scientists have identified depression and have excluded it as a factor. The remaining sense of alertness can still shorten telomeres because it's a threatening response to stress. Staying vigilant for a long time is conducive to survival in a highly competitive region. But survival is not living. It's about sacrificing your health to survive. In the big cities of America, poor people live in poor areas. Rich people live in rich areas. We can even roughly estimate of someone's level of education, future economic conditions, length of their telomeres from the postal code of their place of birth. From the point of view of telomeres, a good community does not equal a rich community. The key word is social cohesion. Community with strong social cohesion where people can help each other and trust each other. They get along well with each other and share the same values. If you have problems, you can rely on each other. If a country is deeply divided between rich and poor, there's deterioration of law and order. Then maybe even the rich won't be happy. In general, poverty is bad for telomeres, but as long as you can meet your basic needs, money doesn't have a big direct effect on telomeres. Social connections are more important than money. If one lives in a cohesive community, get along well with family and friends, it doesn't matter if there is less money. But on the other hand, education matters. The study found that the effect of education on telomeres is not capped. Your telomeres are longer the more educated you are statistically. Career is also important, and maybe even more important than income. A white-collar worker in an office, even a low-paid employee, his telomeres are longer than a manual worker with a higher salary. Someone investigated identical twins who share the same genes. Two brothers who lived in similar living environments since childhood. One became a white-collar worker. One became a blue-collar worker. White-collar telomeres are longer than blue-collar telomeres. So this is how status affects telomeres. What's even more terrifying is that the effects are hereditary. From a telomere perspective, There are three aspects of the influence of parents on children. The first is genetics. Telomere length can be inherited without genetics. It's called direct transmission. That is to say, if pregnant parents' telomeres are shorter due to acquired environmental reasons, even if neither party is carrying any genes that shorten telomeres, their children's telomeres will also be shorter at birth. The influence of the mother is especially important. If the telomeres of an egg cell are short, when the egg cell becomes fertilized through chromosome pairing, the telomeres of fertilized egg will also be shorter than a normal child. The pregnancy has just begun. The second aspect of a mother's influence on her child is the psychological stress of pregnancy. There are studies that find, if there was death or divorce during pregnancy, if the mother suffered a major setback in her life, or if the child's health is poor, then the child's telomeres will be short. The third shock comes after the child is born. Bad family environment, lack of parental care, children who may even be ignored by their parents. There will be a range of physical and mental problems. Short telomeres is just one of them. It's a terrible, vicious cycle. If a person's life is very difficult, their telomeres will be short. The telomeres of the child they gave birth to will also be short. The child telomeres will only become shorter living in such an unstable family. If this is passed down from generation to generation, isn't this a family telomere trap? Certainly. Health is not some competitive project. You don't have to fight to live a long and healthy life. But there's a precondition. It's just that one's luck is better. If a person growing up in a loving family environment, his family and friends are very supportive of him. His environment is full of social cohesion. He feels safe enough. In this case, it is easy for him to get healthy. Of course, even if telomere length can be inherited, the fate of a person is not determined at birth. We can always choose to do something based on what we discussed earlier. Actively select what we want to do. Make your telomeres and those of your loved ones longer. Aging is not a simple technical issue. Human lifespan and aging is actually a struggle and a race against nature. Because from nature's perspective, each of us individually, after completing the task of passing down the family line, the job of passing on the genes is done. It's like a male praying mantis being eaten by a female. Because our mission has been accomplished, everyone ages slowly. To achieve good health and longevity, we need to use the laws of nature, improve our daily lives, to have a beneficial impact on our telomere length. Anti-aging is a race against time. It's still up to us. Thank you for watching. See you next time.